Hi and welcome to Northants Wargamers on the Road. My name's Barry and today we're showing the top 8 match from the UK Games Expo 2019 for the AOS Sigmar Champions Nationals. It's between Mike Pfeffier on the left playing Rotigus Rainfather and Dominic Elston playing an updated Mordant Burn. 24 players took part in this event. The faction breakdown was 7 Chaos, 6 Death, 4 Destruction, 7 Order. So the guys are just finishing off their deployment and away we go. So we have Rotigus Rainfather, Chaos Champion, Blood Reaver Chieftain and a Herald of Nurgle. And Dominic has Crypt Haunter Courtier, Crypt Haunter Courtier, Monstrous Haunter Courtier and a Monstrous Haunter Courtier. So Dominic's decided to pass twice and it's over to Mike. So there we go, Rotigus gains 1 health. And then plays Opportunity Strike for 5 damage. And then Blood Fury Wrathmonger, 2 more damage. Second quest done on Herald of Nurgle. So the top 8 faction breakdown was 3 Chaos, 3 Death, 1 Destruction, 2 Order, and I'll add the link to the top 8 list in the show notes below. So we've got a Feasting Vargeist going in, healed for 1. And then Vigor Necris going in, doing the first quest on the Monstrous Courtier. So he's discarding the Fearsome Crypt Flayers and then he'll put them into play. Rotates, 2 damage. So anything going under the Blood Reaver Chieftain will now be dormant. Rotigus then does 1 damage. 2 damage from the Blood Fury Wrathmonger, 1 damage to himself. Furious Strike for 4 damage. So the damage train is already left the station. So 2 damage from the Fearsome Crypt Flayers and 1 health back from the Feasting Vargeist. Second quest done on the Crypt Haunter Courtier at the top. Dominic passes twice, filling up his hand. 1 damage from Rotigus Rainfather because he's engaged. 2 damage from the Blood Fury Wrathmongers, dealing 1 to himself. All the quests done now for the Herald of Nurgle. We got Unrivaled Battlelust. So, expect lots of damage coming next turn. So what can Dominic do to prevent this? So we got Insatiable Blood Reaver going into play. Removes the Blood Fury Wrathmonger. And then takes a card. Gets 2 cards from the Feasting Vargeist. So has he drawn anything? He needs some sort of protection. So Tireless Crypt Flayer flips a blessing. Gets Supernatural Horror. So couldn't have got a better blessing. So all those units on Mike's side are going to be dormant. So Mike is now going to be left with throwing events and heroic acts to get the extra damage from the Unrivaled Battlelust. Finishes his turn by playing a Feasting Vargeist and heals for 1. Rotigus Rainfather deals 1 damage. So takes a damage from Unrivaled Battlelust. So the Insatiable Blood Reaver does nothing because it's dormant with Supernatural Horror. So he's going to ping for 1 damage, which is actually goes to 4 because of Unrivaled Battlelust. And unless he's got an event in his hand, he's going to be drawing. Okay, so Fanatical Skull Fiend goes into play. Doesn't deal any damage to himself because it goes in dormant. So 2 damage from the Tireless Crypt Flayer, 1 health back from the Feasting Vargeist. 1 quest left to go on the Crypt Haunter Courtier. Frightful Strike going in, 3 damage. Probably would have been better played on the courtier next to it, because would have got a card out of Michael's hand. Scrabbling Horror, there we go. So 1 damage from the Scrabbling Horror and reveals Orb of Immortality. So he's got a bit of protection now. 1 damage from Rotigus Rainfather. 1 damage from Unrivaled Battlelust. So pings for 3 damage from Blood Reaver Chieftain. And draws a card. So Clyde, head of OP, is just pointing out that he didn't trigger his quest. So he's only going to let him off once. Okay, Tyler's Crypt Flare does 3. 2 cards from the Feasting Vargeist. 1 damage from the Scrabbling Horror. So, sorry about the glare. There's not a lot we can do about the lights in NEC. They are going to be a problem throughout these top cut matches. So I'm going to try my best to keep on top of what cards are being played. So Frightful Strike coming in, 3 damage. So Mike has to shuffle a card back into his deck because the Chaos Champion is of lower points and is unengaged. So they're on a pretty equal health. Dominic's done a good job of keeping the Unrivaled Battlelust under control thanks to that Supernatural Horror. When he starts getting down to 5 health, that's when all of his champions will start triggering. So that's why he's got the Monstrous Courtiers going first, because they'll deal damage, and then the Crypt Haunter Courtiers will heal. So Rotigus is going to deal 1. Deal 1 damage to himself with the Unrivaled Battlelust. None of his units rotate because the Supernatural Horror is still in play for 1 more turn. So Opportunity Strike going in for 4 damage. Thanks to Unrivaled Battlelust. Ping for 3 damage, thanks to Unrivaled Battlelust. So now Dominic will be triggering his Monstrous Courtiers, so 2 damage from them, and then he gets to heal 1. So he's back up to 6. So he's got some good staying power. Supernatural Horror's gone. Scrabbling Horror does 3 damage. Mike is down to 6. Even Stevens, who can finish each other off. Dominic's got the advantage because he's got a fistful of cards. Mike is down to 1. So Freakish Crypt Horror goes into play. Flip the next blessing. So all Mike's champions are now dormant. So no more blessings for the next 3 turns for Mike. So Feast of Souls. So we're going to get rid of the Fanatical Skull Fiend. It's going to go back in his hand, and Dominic is going to heal 2. So Rotigus does not trigger this turn because of Expansive Gur. Unrivaled Battlelust is done. 3 damage, 2 health. So with Orb of Immortality out for Dominic, it's going to be quite hard for Mike to finish him off. So Fearless Coregrass going in, 2 damage. Puts Dom down to 3. And draws a card. Dominic's go. 2 damage from the Monstrous Courtier because he's below 5. 1 health back from the Crypt Haunter. 1 damage from the freakish crypt ghouls, and 1 health. So he's got to do 5 damage. So we've got Fuel to the Gravetide. So getting rid of that Fearless Corgrass, he's going to have to put 3 units into the bin. So Thorns going in, Murderous Fargeist, and probably a Corpse Cart. So he's going to Vigor Necris, so gets to pull out a card out of his discard, so puts in Thorns of the Briar Queen, does 2 damage, and then rotates, doing 3. So that's the 5 he's needed. So Dom has won. There we go. Well done, Dom. Game 1 to Dom. So some good plays there. The Orb of Immortality and all of his health gains certainly helped him out. So we have Herald of Nurgle, Blood Reaver Chieftain, Rotigus Rainfather, and a Chaos Champion for Mike. And for Dom, we've got Crypt Haunter Courtier ×2, and then 2 Monstrous Haunter Courtiers. Now they have to be in that order, so Dom can deal 2 damage first and then heal. So Fearless Corgrass going to play. Okay, so Mike's just going through that he forgot to do Rotigus, so Dom's allowed him to do it. And 2 damage from the Fearless Corgrass, and draws a card. Dom's go. So Dom is within his right to say no, you can't trigger Rotigus because you've moved ahead of that step. And when it gets down to the top cuts, that might come into play. You have to remember your triggers. The problem is mental fatigue starts trickling in. So Freakish Crypt Horror goes in. So Dom's going to hit the second quest on the Crypt Haunter Courtier next turn. Draws a card. Fearless Is he going to remember Rotigus? There we go. So 1 health there. 1 damage from Fearless Corgrass. Second quest done on Blood Reaver Chieftain. Blood Fury Wrathmongers go in. 2 damage. Deals 1 damage to himself. And then draws for 1. Dom's go. 1 damage to Mike. 1 health back for Dom. Second quest done on the Crypt Haunter Courtier. So Dominic's no stranger to this channel, as he's made the cut in most of the Age of Sigmar events for this year in the UK. He's a very good player. We first saw him at Warhammer Fest with Gordrak in the final versus Hamish. So Feast of Souls, so gains 2 health, doesn't get the extra effect because Mike hasn't got a unit in play. And then Fearsome Crypt Flayers going in to do the second quest. So Rotigus gains 1 health because he's disengaged. 2 damage from the Blood Fury Wrathmonger, and then 1 damage to himself. We've got a Fanatical Skull Fiend going into play. 1 damage. Does the third quest on the Blood Reaver Chieftain. Will he follow up with an event? There we go. Putrid Offering. So he's going to remove a card. Well, there we go. There's a blessing. So Dom's got to deal with Unrivaled Battlelust again. It's going to remove the Blood Fury Wrathmonger, which removes the Freakish Crypt Horror. Then 2 damage from the Putrid Offering, and then heals for 2 from the same card. So, will we see a repeat of Dom getting Supernatural Horror out? So 2 damage from the Fearsome Crypt Flayer. Anything deployed on the Chaos Champion now will be dormant while it's in play. So another Fearsome Crypt Flayer going into play. So next turn the Fanatical Skull Fiend will be dormant. Rotigus heals for 1. 1 damage from Unrivaled Battlelust. And then he's going to deal 6 damage from the Fanatical Skullfiend. And is he going to pop the Blood Reaver Chieftain for another 4? No. He's getting rid of the Fearsome Crypt Flyer, so he's not dormant next turn. And then Blood Fury Wrathmonger is going to go in for 5. Does 1 damage to himself. So, huge amount of damage that turn. 2 damage from Dom. So he really needs to try and get these blessings to help him out a bit. Because they certainly did the trick the last game. So, Vigor Necris discards a card to put a card into play. So he gets the Fearsome Crypt Flyer out, 2 damage. Now the Blood Fury Wrathmonger is dormant. He's got 1 more quest to go on the Courtier at the top. 1 health back from Rotigus. So he's dormant, so that Blood Fury Wrathmonger doesn't do anything. But the Fanatical Skullfiend will trickle round and do 1 damage to himself. There we go. So, 3 damage from the Blood Reaver Chieftain's Heroic Act. He's got no choice. He's got a draw, hasn't he? He's got no cards in his hand. So, Dom's go. So, 2 damage from the Fearsome Crypt Flyer at the top, sorry. Scrubbling Horror. What blessing do we get? We get Supernatural Horror. So, everything on Mike's side is dormant. 1 damage from that Scrubbling Horror. And then heals for 1 when he deploys the Feasting Vargeist. So, stabilised a little bit. So, Rotigus then heals for 1 again. 1 damage from the Unrivaled Battlelust. Mike's units do nothing. So, he's probably going to ping again for damage off of his Blood Reaver Chieftain. There we go. So, 3 damage from that. And then grab a card. So, Dom's go. So, 1 damage from Scrubbling Horror. 1 health back from the Feasting Vargeist. Dom's passing. 2 cards drawn. So, forgot Rotigus again. So, Rotigus Rainfather heals for 1. Units do nothing because the Supernatural Horror's in play. So, drawing for 2. Preparing to flood the board next turn. So, 3 damage from the Scrabbling Horror. 2 cards in his hand from the Feasting Vargeist. So, Tireless Crypt Flyer goes into play. We get Royal Hunt. So, when units and abilities are played against Rotigus Rainfather, they will be increased by 3. So Dom really needs to start channeling some of that extra damage now to pull himself back into this game. So has he got a unit there so he can start dishing out some damage? Fuel the Gravetide goes into play. So removes the Blood Fury Wrathmonger. It doesn't trigger its last stand because it's dormant. So Dom's got to put 3 cards into the bin. Are we going to see Briar Queen go in there again? There we go. So has he got a Vigor Necris in play so he can put it into play and then deal out additional damage through Royal Hunt? So that would be quite good. So that would be 5 and then 6 damage, 11 damage in total just through 1 card being played. No, doesn't look like it. So Rotigus heals for 1. So, Mike Pfeffier has travelled all the way from Germany to enter this event. He watched Hamish Chisholm Brown pilot a Rotigus deck on a previous video. He's made a few adjustments to suit his own style of play. If any of you are wondering, Mike Pfeffier is no relation to Michelle. Insatiable Blood Reaver goes into play. Doesn't trigger. It will trigger it because it enters play. So it's not dormant until it's fully in play. So the it will remove that card. So the Fanatical Skull Fiend doesn't trigger its last stand because it was dormant. So Fanatical Skull Fiend goes into play, does nothing because it's dormant straight away. There we go. So Supernatural Horror has gone. 2 damage from those Tireless Crypt. So Clyde's just going through the rules on what happened with the Insatiable Blood Reaver going into play under Supernatural Horror effect. So there was another player who travelled all the way from Germany to this event. Sadly I didn't get his name, but he came especially to play Hamish, and he just so happened to play each other in the round. So he was very happy. Hamish obliged by beating him. So yeah, it was. They both left very happy. So Dom's just checking how many cards Mike's got left. He really needs to start using this Royal Hunt. Play cards against Rotigus to try and pull back some damage. So Dom passes twice. So Rotigus heals for 1. So Insatiable Blood Reaver is going to do 3 damage and heal for 2, sorry, and then 3 more damage through the Fanatical Skull Fiend. Leaves Dom on 8. Opportunity Strike goes in for 2. Down to 6. So if Mike does any more damage, then it triggers Dom's champions. So Dom doesn't get any of his champion effects this turn. So Tireless Crypt Ghouls do 3 damage. Or Tireless Crypt Flayer does 3. Three damage through Frightful Strike. He might have been better off putting that through Rotigus, but he's decided to trigger his quest. And then what does he get from the other Tireless Crypt Flayer? Expanse and Girt. So all of Mike's champions are dormant, so that Herald of Nurgle at the top won't be getting its final quest off. So he doesn't get the Rotigus effect because champions are dormant. But certainly all the other cards do. So 1 damage to himself through the Fanatical Skull Fiend. So Mike passes, draws 2. Dom's go. So 2 damage from the Tireless Crypt Flayer. So we've got a Scrabbling Horror going into play for 4 damage. Normally 1, but because of Royal Hunt, goes up by 3. So 3 damage from the Fanatical Skull Fiend puts him down to 3. Can Mike finish him off? So Furious Strike going into play, 4 damage. So his champions didn't get any chance to save in there. So Mike has pulled himself back and we're on to game 3. So we have Herald of Nurgle, Bloodreaver Chieftain, Chaos Champion and Rotigus Rainfather versus 2 Crypt Haunter Courtiers and 2 Monstrous Haunter Courtiers. So Dom can't change his lineup really, or setup, because he needs those 2 Monstrous Courtiers first. So we've got a Scrabbling Horror going into play for 1 damage. First quest done on that Crypt Haunter Courtier. We have a Gorslick Skull Reaper going in for 1 rain damage. So, Mike's forgotten about Rotigus at the beginning. So, now it's got to game 3. Dom's not going to let him have the health through missing triggers, which he's entirely right to do. So, Fearless Korgorath's going to play 2 damage. So 1 damage from the Scrabbling Horror. And then we've got Fuel to the Gravetide to remove the Gorslick Skull Reaper. He'll take 2 damage in return, but he's going to fill up his discard pile. Start getting some triggers for the Vigor Necris. So he's put Thorn of the Briar Queen in there and the Murderous Vargeist. And then Feast for Souls to heal for 2. Second quest done on the Crypt Haunter Courtier. Heal 1 health through Rotigus. Mike doesn't forget this time. 1 damage through the Fearless Korgoraths. Then we've got a Fanatical Skull Fiend going into play. Deals 1 damage to himself. Second quest done on that Bloodreaver Chieftain. And then draws a card. Dom's go. 3 damage through Scrabbling Horrors. Third quest done on champion number 3. So another Fuel the Gravetide. So he's going to get rid of that Fanatical Skull Fiend. First of all, he's got to put 3 of his units in the discard pile. So, Freakish Crypt Ghouls going in there, Feasting Vargeist, and another Scrabbling Horror. So, 2 damage from the last stand from the Fanatical Skull Fiend. So, he's got plenty of units in there now that he can bring back if he's got the cards to do it. So, Rotigus heals for 1. Fearless Korgoraths leave play. So Furious Strike for 5. Gets his blessing. What do we get? Spell Eater Curse. So 4 damage. And then 5 damage through Furious Strike. So if Dom had had any spells out, the Spell Eater Curse would have done an extra 2 damage per spell and then removed it. Insatiable Bloodreaver goes into play. Second quest done on the Herald of Nurgle. So, Frightful Strike, 3 damage from Frightful Strike. Because it's gone through against the Chaos Champion and it costs less, it's disengaged. So, Mike has to discard a card. So, Dom passes for a card. So heals for 1 through Rotigus, 3 damage from the Insatiable Bloodreaver, and then he should heal for 2. And then he's got a draw. There we go. Right, so Dom's go. So Scrabbling Horror leaves play. Laser Tyler Script Flare. What do we get? We get Supernatural Horror. So the Insatiable Blood Reaver is not going to leave play this turn. Heal for 1 through Rotigus. It's going to draw 2. So Tyler's Crypt Flower is going round, 2 damage. So Dom's got the chance to stabilise his board a little bit. Murderous Vargeist goes into play, 2 damage, passes, draws a card. Heals for 1 through Rotigus Rainfather. So he's either going to play events or he is going to draw. There we go. So Murderous Vargeist is going to do 2 and the Tireless Crypt Flare is going to do 3. There we go. So Dom's crawling it back. So Dom's going to draw. So heal for 1 from Rotigus. Demonic Fury. So we've got 2 damage to himself, 5 damage to Dom. So that Supernatural Horrors definitely allowed Mike to draw some really powerful effects, which you would normally see in a Chaos deck. So 1 damage from the Murderous Vargeist. So 1 more quest to go with that monstrous Haunted Courtier on lane 2. So we've got Fearsome Crypt Flare going in. First quest done on champion number 4 at the top, the Crypt Haunted Courtier. A Vigor Necris going into play. So it's discarding a card. So is he going to bring out the Briar Queen or Thorns of the Briar Queen? No, another Murderous Vargeist, 2 damage. Another 2 damage because the Vigor Necris will rotate the card that goes into play. Rotigus heals 1. So the Insatiable Blood Reaver finally leaves play because Supernatural Horror is not in effect. Here come the units. Fearless Korgoras going for 2. First quest done on that Chaos Champion. Has Mike got a damage ability? There we go. No, Gorslick Skull Reaper, 1 Ren damage. Reveal the Blessing. We get Anrahir's Claw for another 2. So Dom's not going to trigger any of his champion effects because he's not on 5 health. So 1 damage from the Murderous Vargeist, 2 damage from the Fearsome Crypt Flare. That Gorslick Skull Reaper at the top is now dormant. Passes twice, draws 2 cards. So, so 3 damage from Anrahir. 1 damage from Fearless Korgoras. 2 left. Has he got a ability? There we go. Fester and Rot. Can only be played if he's on 15 or less health. Does 2 damage to himself and 3 damage to his opponent. So Mike has won that. Well done, Mike. 2 games to 1. So if you guys enjoyed that, there's plenty more to come. Leave a comment, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.